Today's episode is sponsored by ExpressVPN. Thanks ExpressVPN. Here's the deal. I like Fuji cameras a lot, and it's no secret to anyone that Fuji undoubtedly has a look to their cameras that stands out of the crowd, whether you like it functionally or not. The only other brand that matches Fujifilm's qualities is probably Leica, even though it's a different segment of the market. Made for rich as people. But surely Fujifilm is not the only camera maker who makes retro-styled cameras. And even though I try to find some other retro cameras, I'm also a photographer, and all the other options are frankly disappointing as a tool for making photos. Today, we'll talk about it and I'll explain why I think Fuji rules where others fail. Hello everybody, it's one and only Aperture Value with yet another episode. At the beginning of my photography journey, I used a Canon camera, then I used Sony's, but it was only after I bought my first Fuji camera I found the ultimate inspiration and joy that I was looking for when taking pictures. You see, photography is not my career, not my job. I do it because I like it, not because I have to. Being in Sony ecosystem for a few years, I just ended up with lots of expensive gear, G master lenses, high megapixel camera body, and absolutely no desire to take it with me outside and use it. And it also caused demotivating lack of confidence and insecurity. So one night I just decided to sell off everything and get a smaller capable camera that I would be excited to carry around and take pictures. I looked into every system possible, and in the end I decided on getting a Fuji X-T30. It was a great choice for me since it was light and looked cool. The lens park from Fuji is much better than those of other brands made for APS-C, and last but not least, it was more affordable than going into full frame again. It turned out to be one of the best decisions of my life. My only regret is that I didn't go with Fuji from the very beginning. It took me some time to try out different cameras from the Fuji's lineup and find what I like most. But don't get me wrong, I would pick any Fuji camera and shoot it with joy, and I would prefer it over any other brand any day of the week. From that time on, my love for retro cameras often brought me to some very nice eBay deals from time to time. If you think about it, there are many other cameras with retro styling which also look very cool and worth looking into. I don't know about you, but I like the looks of Olympus cameras, especially the Pen F. There's a Nikon DF and ZFC, which also look great, especially the new black version of the later one. There are older cameras to consider as well, like the brass body Pentax MX1, Leica X, and first Sony A7 bodies, they look cool too. But every time I stumble across a good deal on one of them, I still choose to pass. And it's not just because all of them suck in comparison to Fuji, no. I guess the biggest gripe I have about the retro cameras is that, unlike Fuji, other cameras get their looks just for the sake of it. In design, there is a principle: function dictates form. In other words, the retro style of Fuji cameras, all the dials, the switches, all of it has its place in functionality, while others create design for the camera first, and then they try to fit the functions into the design. Let's look at Nikon DF, for instance. One of the biggest confusions about this camera from a usability point of view is the implementation of the mode dial. If you look at this camera, you'll obviously recognize the old retro SLR styling with the shutter and ISO dials. But besides that, they also put a mode dial which overrides any dial settings. Makes them basically useless. If you touch any of the dials but forgot to change the mode, you're screwed. Let's say I set my mode dial to aperture priority, and at one point I need to switch to a specific shutter speed. But if I just do that and don't change the mode dial, the camera would still choose whatever shutter speed it thinks it needs to use because it will still be in aperture priority. And that works for any of the dials. I'm not even talking about the kind of stupid dedicated aperture number window. They just made a design of the camera first, and then they had to put the standard DSLR functionality into that style. But remember, function dictates form, not vice versa. That's why it is kind of a quirky camera to use. Other examples are more simple. Olympus Pen F is a gorgeous looking camera if you ask me, except for the back. The front knob was clearly put there at the very early stages of design simply because it had to resemble the knob from the film Pen F. But when it came to functionality, they did a terrible choice of assigning the color styles to that knob, the most prominent control part of the camera for a minute. And of course, they could have assigned something much more usable and useful, like shutter speed or aperture, but the camera was supposed to be an easy one, so that's why Panav gets the most useless knob in the history award. I'm pretty sure that the left side on-off switch was also made just for the sake of retro looks. Functionally, it doesn't make sense to make it there in a camera that is clearly designed for one-hand operation. And there are many more examples, but the conclusion is the same. All those bodies are made to look cool, but as cameras, they operate poorly. And even though I'm after the great looks, the frustration and mediocre handling keep me from buying those. And this is where Fuji outplays them all. Every knob, every dial and switch, all of it has its place and purpose. That's why Fujifilm gets praised for its cameras over and over again. And that is why I'm genuinely in love with their cameras. Everything makes sense and feels right. Some may say that it's made for old-timers who miss their film cameras, or that's for hipsters who want to look cool. I can't deny it, but it is only a part of a bigger truth. Before getting Fuji, I haven't shot any rangefinder cameras, but as soon as I tried those cameras, I couldn't really go back to Canons or Sonys. Fuji cameras are not absolutely perfect, they are not technically superior to others, so what is it then? It might sound cheesy like some luxury hotel ad, but the experience is everything. Without being technically picky, each Fuji camera has exactly everything you need, and I think with X100V, Fuji hits like the peak of expectations and desires. This camera is really the holy grail of everyday photography. And even things I thought I don't need, they came in handy at some point, like the flash, ND filter, the leaf shutter. Combine it with the excellent lens and portability, what else can you ask for? Each next generation of X100 camera is getting better and better, and I have no doubt that the next X100 camera will probably feature a new 40 megapixel sensor, IBIS, more film simulations. Nevertheless, I also own the very first original X100, and let me tell you, being technically dated didn't stop that camera from bringing me joy of use, inspiration and motivation. The same works for other cameras I've used. Fujifilm's dial system is simple, ingenious and perfectly fits the retro styling of each model. Hybrid viewfinders, hidden screens, film simulations and great lenses, all of that doesn't obviously add to performance, but have become a cultural phenomenon in the camera world, and for a good reason. The usability and photography process with Fuji cameras is nothing less but delightful, and I'm afraid none of the modern cameras come close enough for me to switch. There are plenty of good sides to other brands as well, but until they figure out a way to make a functionally great retro camera, I'll be staying on Team Fuji. They keep trying, let's see what the future brings. How about you? Do you love rocking Fujis as well? Let me know, and don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the bell and not to miss the new episodes, you know the drill. If you really like this video, you can also buy me a coffee in the link below. And I'll be off now to baby my gear, today's cleaning day.